What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. I am Ryan Hensley. This is the Ryan G. Hensley Show. I got another middle initial guy with me today, Weston P. Smith. Shout out to Weston P. Smith. We got a lot to talk about today. Thoughts on the BA pivot interview, obviously, talking about BA till we're blue in the face this offseason. Some key takeaways from that. I ranked the 49ers position groups. I want to hear what Weston has to say. It was a tough task. I promise you that. Some camp battles that I think we need to watch, and maybe some sleepers, as well as maybe Kyle Shanahan might be still he might be swagger jacking my mustache. Give us 17 seconds. We'll be right back.
Back to throw Montana. Steps up, throws. The 49ers have won the Super Bowl.
And now your host, Ryan Hensley.
Now your host, Ryan Hensley.
Weston, what's up, brother, man? Welcome to the show, dude.
What's up, Ryan? Appreciate you dragging me on. I don't know, I say dragging, but all it took was a simple invite. Happy to be here, man. Happy Monday to everyone.
Yeah, man. Good to have Weston. I've been watching you do your thing with Steph Sanchez. You're on the East Coast, New Jersey, Niner fan. Before we dive into the show, how'd you become a Niner fan in New Jersey, bro?
How do I abbreviate this story? So I come from a long lineage of New York Giant fans, right? That's my backyard. I'm actually a season ticket holder to the New York Giants that I inherited when my grandfather passed. But I, like you, Ryan, I mean, didn't matter where I was. I grew up during the Montana Rice era, Lott, Craig, Raffman, throw them all in there. And oddly enough, so I played sports my whole life, and obviously Sundays was a big day. So by the time we would finish up for the day, our family, it was usually the 4 o'clock game. And this was back when there was only a 1 o'clock game and a 4 o'clock game. And it was always either the Niners or the Cowboys that were televised on the East Coast. So got a lot of it. I got more exposure to the 49ers than I did any other team growing up, just based on that. And I was probably a front runner at 5, 6, 7. But here we are 30-something years later and never faltered or wavered. What you see behind me, those jerseys, yeah, that was actually my wife and I. That's our wedding. Instead of like signing a book, people sign jerseys, and that's our wedding dates.
Oh, wow.
Like custom jerseys for that.
So is the wife into it as well?
She is, but she grew up a 49er cheerleader fan, right, of the Gold Rush. So when we met, I guess it was fate, and here we are 20 years later.
Right on, man. Well, it's good to have you. I made an error on the title here. So it's Weston P. Smith. It used to be the WTF podcast. Now it is tell everyone how they can find you.
Yeah, now it's Island 49. When I first took a gander at doing the whole podcast YouTube channel thing, I had a partner and we were talking all ball, everything we could football, but obviously the passion is the San Francisco 49ers. So obviously life gets in the way sometimes with what we're trying to accomplish here. So branched out on the own, and now it's just Island 49, all things 49ers.
Island 49. Why island? Oh, because you're on an island. I'm just
on an island.
There we
just
go.
Me out here, baby.
It took me a while. I was like, are you an islander by chance? No, I got it now. I figured it out. All right, man. Well, obviously, we've been talking Brandon Ayuk too much this offseason, but he's the guy in the news. He's actually enjoying it, according to him. Something new I learned about him. But did you have a chance to watch Brandon Ayuk on the pivot recently?
Yeah, more than I probably would care to admit. But yeah, I certainly had an opportunity and allocated time to that for sure. Always interested to get the player's perspective, and we'll talk more about it. But I thought he equated himself quite well in terms of just like placing himself in the eyes of the fans who might not be so happy with him because they want him to just hurry up and get this done and take a team-friendly contract. But I thought he was fair and really just kind of opened a lot of people's eyes to what really is happening in contract negotiations. This isn't like, Ryan, when you and I were 6, 7, 8 years old and dudes were staying with teams for 10, 12 years, right? You never even had to worry about this. This is just a new age of football. There's a lot that goes on to these contract negotiations. So I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, and I thought he did well for himself in that conversation.
What was like maybe the biggest takeaway for you? Like something that you're like didn't know, or the biggest thing that you learned from that interview?
I don't want to say what I learned. What I thought was refreshing was just him taking the opportunity to kind of clarify some like post Super Bowl reaction from himself and family. And to me, that's like pure truth. Like that's probably the rawest you'll see players after like such a crazy upswing season and then just such a let down in the end, right, of what everything was culminating towards. I always thought those tweets were very reactionary. I didn't think any of them were intended to be like bitter or, slating your team or your quarterback or anything along those lines. But it was nice just to hear, a humble approach from the player. Like, what do you want from me? Like, I was hurt. We just lost the Super Bowl. Like, I was reacting in the moment. And of course, like, I think the world of my talents. Of course, I wanted to be a bigger focal point of the game plan for the on the biggest of stages. So I found that to be, again, another area where he just equated himself well, and humanized himself, and just like, I'm human. Like, what do you want from me? Like, I reacted to the moment, as did my family. We were all like, people forget it's not just a player, man. It's the families. Like, Ryan, think about your own personal life and like the trajectory of your career and everything that you've been doing. Like, your family's along for that ride as well. They ride the ups, they ride the downs, and we forget that, right? All we care about is like the production of the athlete, not necessarily the person and what they go through and how they have to rebound and recoup. So I found that to be just I don't know. It put BA in a different light in my eyes.
Yeah, so I had a couple takeaways. I want to get your response to them. One of them was, let me see this one right here. I'll throw it on the screen. Kyle Shanahan came out in a press conference. I think it was last year or the year before. I think it was last year. They asked him about Brandon Ayuk being in the doghouse. He said Brandon Ayuk was never in the doghouse. That was just coaching. BA on the pivot was talking about in my second year when I was in the doghouse. So according to Kyle, he was never in the doghouse, but Brandon Ayuk definitely felt like he was in the doghouse. A lot of us said that. We got a lot of pushback. Brandon Ayuk definitely felt like he was in the doghouse, whether Kyle looked at him like he was or not. And that's subjective, obviously. Like, Kyle's opinion of it couldn't have been, hey, he's not in the doghouse. I'm coaching him up. I'm, showing him what I expect of him. If you don't come through, then you're not going to play. But Brandon Ayuk felt like he was in the doghouse. So what do you make of this conflict here, this disagreement of opinion?
I think that's exactly what it is, right? And to your point, it's all subjective, right? Kyle's definition of the doghouse might be drastically different than Ayuk's. I think it's coaching, right? That's what Kyle's supposed to do, right? There's certain expectations we need you to achieve, and if you're not, like, why we're not going to fully reward that in terms of on-field play and target share, things of that nature. But I pay no mind. To me, this is just typical coach-player relationship and like rhetoric, especially if you're thinking about given the situation right now. I think the 49ers are trying to do everything and say everything right around wanting to keep BA, to try your best to not upset your player that you're trying to negotiate with. And Brandon's in a light that I think he's casting it differently, saying like, yeah, I was in a doghouse. And yeah, I had the chip stack against me. And look what I'm still able to do and how I rebounded from that. That speaks to my character, who I am as a player, a teammate, an employee of the organization when you really think about it. So I'm not reading between the lines too much. I expect this, right? It's almost like he said, she said. Like, I was like, no, he was never in the doghouse. But like, Brandon's gonna be like, well, I felt like I was because I wasn't getting, my number wasn't being called, or I wasn't out on the field as much. And okay, that's fair. Then do what's asked, and you won't have an issue.
What do you think about him saying that there'd be no hometown discount? Do you think stuff like this, where he thinks, oh, I was in the doghouse, Kyle put me in the doghouse, him not necessarily being part of what Grant Cohn has made famous calling the Cabo clique? Not, do you think those type of things come into play in these negotiations where, maybe he is a little bit more cutthroat about his business right now, or do you think that doesn't play a factor?
I think they factor in a little bit. I mean, it's hard to, again, use your own personal life as experience, right? Like in any negotiate, it's hard not to take things personal, and it's hard not to keep score on how you feel like emotionally. Like, I mean, remember when you were teenagers and everybody was hanging out on party and like, hey, maybe you didn't get the phone call. Yes, we did phone calls back then, people, not text messaging, but maybe you got the phone, didn't get the phone call. And you were a little butthurt about it the next day. Like, these things happen. You keep score. You remember that. You might not invite the next person. So I think they matter. I don't think they're significant, but I applaud Brandon Ayuk for saying like there's no home team discount. Like, there shouldn't be. That I think that is a media fan perception that these players put winning and locker room above their life situation, and they never should, and they never will. This is a business. So I do definitively think they do take it personal, and I do think they keep score, and that factors in. But at the end of the day, the stance should always be, you pay me what I'm worth. There is no discount to you, because I can take the home team discount, and we might not ever win. And why did I do that? But I just cost myself $25-30 million over the course of a 4 or 5 year contract. That's life-changing money that is left on the table.
Yeah, I agree, man. And speaking of business, this was the biggest key takeaway for me. I'm going to share it with you guys right now. Let me share this tab. We'll play this video real quick. This 50.
How much influence do their signings have on your market?
I think a lot. But with that, I felt like when the season was over, I was trying to, I was back and forth with them every day. Like, my agent called me an hour. We were on the phone for an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes, 2 hours, hang up the phone. He calls them. He calls me back in an hour. We're trying to bang this thing out. And I wasn't worried about any other guy. I was just trying to get what I felt was appropriate for me at that time. That was a rush. That was early on in the off season. We couldn't come to an agreement at that time. And then on top of that, other guys decided to come, or not decided to come. They got paid. Their teams rewarded them. The market changed what the market is. So we weren't able to get a deal done at that time where other guys wouldn't affect the market, and I could just do what I wanted to do. But even at that time, they still didn't agree with where I was at. So we really haven't agreed this whole entire time.
So this was key to me, man. Like, I think a lot of us suspected that this was the case, that the longer the 49ers waited, the higher the price tag went up for Brandon Ayuk. He essentially just admitted that right there on that clip. As I said, most of us probably assumed this was the case. It's funny, and if you go read the comments on that tweet, there's people that are saying, he didn't say that. Like, come on, man. Like, we already knew that this is what was happening. He just admitted it. Like, you can't spell it out any clearer. So I have friends that are journalists, obviously, Grant and others, and I send them a text like, can you please ask the 49ers the next time you get an opportunity and try to get an understanding to why this is the way they handle things? Because I don't understand the advantage for the 49ers by waiting. In their mind, there has to be some kind of advantage, but it's not clear as to what it is, because if they sign Brandon Ayuk now, it's going to be more than it would have been immediately after the Super Bowl, according to Brandon Ayuk. So what do you think of the way they do this? Why do they do this? Do you have any idea of what the advantage is for the 49ers to approach it this way?
I have an uneducated hypothesis related to this. I don't know if there's any fact behind it, but I, like you and like everybody else, completely perplexed, have no idea as to why. I mean, the player just said it. I would have signed for a different number 4 months ago. You know what I mean? And the 49ers are not naive to that. Like, they have professional negotiators by title and definition. I don't know if I would go out and call them that just based on what we see, but this is what they tend to do. Why do they do it this way? Well, it hasn't bit them in the butt yet, right? Every big contract they've needed to negotiate, whether it was Fred, Kittle, Debo's, Bosa's, they've gotten it done, right? And they've clearly have had no problem paying their players, but it seems to be like they end up paying them more because they wait. And I think, if I'm putting my rose-colored glasses on here, why they do this is I also think the 49ers have shown that they're not afraid to go get a player. They're not afraid to go make a move or go make a change. And I think they literally want to see the entire offseason unfold in front of them before they make those decisions. Because let's say the negotiations with BA are going really south. And let's say CeeDee Lamb is disgruntled. Jamar Chase is, I'm making these names up, right? But top names that are out there at a position that the 49ers are in the middle of doing this, and they sense something. If they haven't signed that player, they're in a position to make a change, right? They're in a position to, whatever it is, go recoup capital, which would have made more sense prior to the draft. But if that's what they wanted to do, they could. If there's a disgruntled player out there that they think they can swoop in and unload their disgruntled player or whatever it might. I just think they want the whole offseason in its entirety to unravel in front of them so that they feel like when they are making this signing, even if they're overpaying, they're not concerned about it because they there are no options, right? Like this is the option, and it's probably what they wanted to begin with, but they just have to. They're like just making sure that is literally that's all I got. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I give you credit for trying to figure it out, and I think that's the closest answer that could be possible. But it's just, to me, it's be decisive and do it early and get it done. And like the Texans did it with Nico Collins a year early. Like basically, it would be the equivalent of Brandon Ayuk signing an extension last year, which would have been even cheaper. Like if they signed him last year, they're probably signing him for $22 million a year. Now we're up in the 30 range, which is quite a bit more. Obviously, salary cap's increasing. I mean, I still think they can get this done, and I still think they probably do. It's just perplexing to me. I mean, yes, you're right that they have been able to sign the players that they want, the Debos, the Kittles, the Nick Bosa's, but it is also without question if they were able to, and hey, maybe it's these agents. Maybe these agents are dragging their feet on this, but other teams are able to get it done because it definitely benefits the player to wait. Nick Bosa wasn't in a hurry, and he knew like, hey, let other people set the market, and then I'll sign. Whereas Brandon Ayuk admitted that he wanted to get it done, so it's not like Nick Bosa's situation where he was playing it cool and he knew the longer he waited, the better it was. Brandon Ayuk was ready to pull the trigger early, and the Niners hesitated. So, and if they end up signing him, it's going to be for more than what they could have signed him for. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I just want some kind of explanation to where I understand their perspective. I don't know. I would love to hear why from somebody.
You'll get an explanation. It won't make any sense, right? Somebody's going to ask this once this gets wrapped up, like, hey, why did this take so long? Especially now that content like the Pivot podcast is out there and other things, and you're hearing directly from the player, they're going to ask the question. Somebody, I would think somebody's going to ask a question we're not going to be happy with. We're not going to understand the response. I think it just comes down to like, because I agree with you, like you know your game plan, right? Like, you know, before you're wrapping up the 23 season, like what 24 is going to look like. You have people that you employ as a business to be forward thinking in this regard. If that individual is part of the plan, just get it done. Like common sense tells you get it done early. The player wants it done right away. Of course, the player wants it done right away. The player wants to go enjoy the next 4 or 5 months of the off season without any accountability, on vacation with family, friends, living it up and celebrating this life-changing event for them. They're not the ones dragging it. And I don't think it's the agents. I think it's the 49ers, and this will, Ryan, one day this is going to bite them. It could be with a Brock. I don't think Brock's negotiation. Watch how quick they probably get this done when all's said and done, right? Like to just throw a wrench in everything, but this will bite them. There will be a player who said, I've seen this too many times. Enough's enough. Like, trade me. You know what I mean? And then what are you going to do?
Yeah, man, it's just doesn't make a lot of sense to me from a business standpoint. What do you think happens with Brandon Ayuk? Like, let's ask you a two-part question. What do you want to happen with Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers? Do you want them to sign him to $30 million a year? And do you think it gets done?
I want Brandon Ayuk, the player, here. I'm not necessarily concerned whether it's 26 or $30 million. This is all that's all play money when you really fabricate the numbers and how you're able to shift and move. I know maybe he's not a $30 million value in this offense the way that it is designed, right, from a target share perspective. And there's only one ball to go around. But I want Brandon Ayuk, the player, here. I think he is much more than just a wide receiver for this offense, and just even in his blocking ability, which predicates so much for us in the run game. And I do firmly, and I've been steadfast on this the entire time, it'll get done. It's just not getting done in the time that anybody outside of the 49ers, right, like want to get this done. I'm super confident that it will get done, but I'm super confident that it's going to be much closer to BA's number than it ever was the 49ers number, because I do think BA is prepared to dig his feet in, play the math game in terms of how many games he needs to play, etc. I bet the 49ers wish that they could just pay the 5th year, but that BA would be there for all 17 games, ball out because it's contract year, but that's not going to happen. If this gets to the 5th year option, I fully expect BA to miss games and take the fines and whatever coincides to get that final year accruement. Is that the right word? I don't know if that's the right word,
I think
but I think you know what I'm
that's
saying.
Yeah,
But I think
correct.
they get it done.
Yeah, we talked about previously about before I asked you that question, we talked about is he part of the plan? I don't think the 49ers know, and that's what I've been talking about. I don't think they knew if Brandon Ayuk was part of the plan because they didn't know if they were willing to pay him, and they didn't know. That's why they drafted 2 wide receivers, right? I think they are unknown about what they do moving forward with Debo and Brandon Ayuk, who they're hesitant, right? Both guys were on the trading block in the draft. They drafted Ricky Pearsall, Jake Cowan. They drafted 2 wide receivers. They extended Juwan Jennings. So I think this season's going to decide what direction they go forward in. But I think the part of the reason why they didn't sign him so early is they weren't sure if they even wanted to. I think I think they see the writing on the wall for this team from a salary cap standpoint, and they know they have to pay guys like Brock Purdy are going to get a large contract, and they have to be very careful with who they pay. And Brandon Ayuk may just be a year too late on this. If I had to bet, I would bet that this gets done. But I think that they might have been wanting to see what they could get in the trade, and they were calculating that. They might have wanted to see what Ricky Pearsall actually looks like in training camp, Jake Cowan, and whether they believe in him or not. They still may be deciding that. I know they've offered Brandon Ayuk. They want him back, but at a certain price, which we've heard is $26 million per year. We don't know the guaranteed money, which is probably what is really important to Brandon Ayuk and probably the sticking point for both of the organization and Brandon Ayuk. It's really probably that guaranteed money. So we'll see. I've heard good things, good rumblings that meeting. First of all, that meeting, the Niners said things were said that needed to be said. My guy in the building said it was explosive. So to me, explosive sounds, if you were the Niners PR team, you would summarize explosive by saying, sounds like things were said that needed to be said, right? That's the good way of saying it was explosive. So a lot was said. You could tell that Brennan has some feelings based on that pivot interview. So hopefully, like, they aired it all out, and now they can move forward and wrap things up. I've heard good rumblings about that may be a possibility soon, but they've been close before, and it's gone either way. It's still undetermined until Brandon Ayuk signs that paper. You really can't count anything. It would not surprise me if they go 5th-year option on this.
No, I think I differ from the public opinion about like the drafting of the 2 wide receivers and the implications that might have on the Ayuk situation. I just firmly believe it has more to do with Debo and beyond, right? Because like I don't care if it's Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowan, like put them together in their production in year 1, it's not going to replicate what Ayuk is consistently done like year over year. It takes time to get there. So I always felt that was more the future move, hoping Ayuk was here and getting somebody, a couple other explosive bodies into the building. Neither here nor there. But I would say the good news in the Ayuk negotiation perspective, is that it's not fractured yet, right? Like you didn't hear the player like and we've seen this before, not even with the 49ers, other teams, like, get me out of here, I'm gone. And then the bad mouthing starts behind the scenes and plays itself out in the media. I don't feel like we've seen it to that extreme in any capacity, which is like a really good sign for where we are in the summer, heading in, pretty soon, meaningful ball is going to start again. So I think that boosts the odds that it's more likely that something gets done sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think going into the offseason that was probably their mentality. Like, hey, we could, let's extend BA and, we can draft a guy to replace Debo for the future. But now I'm not sure, man. When I watch Debo Samuel, he's training his ass off. He looks better. He looks great. He looks as good as he's ever looked from a slim, like he's slim, looks fast. Debo in a contract year is dangerous. At least the one time we were able to see it, that was all pro season by Debo Samuel. And if Debo balls out again and has another all pro season, and let's say Brandon Ayuk's on his 5th-year option, the Niners I don't think they're going to want to walk away from Debo either. So things could change. I really think there's that competitiveness going on right now. Not in a negative way between Debo and BA. Not like they're trying to sabotage each other, but they realize probably there's only a spot for one of them long term on this team, and it looks like Debo's motivated for it to be him, or at least get a contract somewhere else. So originally, I would agree with you, but now I think all cards are on the table. Depends on if BA gets an extension. We know the answer most likely. But if he's a 5th-year option, I mean,
Yeah.
and Debo balls out, it could be Debo is the guy that moves forward with the 49ers.
I liken it to good problems to have to make decisions between two top production wide receivers. I just think with Debo, as explosive as he is, as game changing he is, it's a long season and he plays a physical brand of football. Like, how long can he do this? And then when you really boil it down to the position that they are titled, the wide receiver position, Brandon Ayuk is a far better wide receiver by definition to me than Debo Samuel. And I'm not slighting Debo. He's a stud. We're a Debo household. All right. Every one of my children and myself, we sport Debo jerseys on Sunday. I am a fan of that man for everything that you just said. I just think when you think of like the longevity of your football team, Ayuk just probably checks a couple more boxes like, hey, if I'm going to pay this man, I feel like he gets out on the field. I feel like he'll be here. He'll produce. We all know Debo is going to miss 2 to 3 games every season just with the knees, the ankles, because of the brand of football that he plays. So, but I'll digress because, Ryan, I hope he balls out contract year. He knows what's at stake at the end of the season. And I tell you, if the 49ers go out and win the Super Bowl and Debo is offensive player of the year, I still think they'd move him because they're like, all right, box checked, 1 Super Bowl. That's what we needed to do. Move on from this guy. So that's why I think Debo is the one that's on the way out. But if they can't get anything done with Brandon, then it's like, oh, okay. But we still have him on contract. So I think you're right, but I think they prefer BA over Debo.
Yeah, I think that was probably the plan. But there's only, there's only so many Debos in this world. There's really only one, honestly. I think Brandon Ayuk's, they don't have anybody that can replace Brandon Ayuk right now in that locker room, at least from right now is how it appears. We'll see what happens with Ricky Pearsall. But I feel like his skill set is easier to find than a Debo Samuel skill set. So we'll see, man. I agree with you 100% until lately, because lately it's been a little funky between BA and the Niners, not in like the worst way, but it isn't going smoothly. And we all know Debo is Kyle's BFF. Real quick, Dave Barkley, been a member for a month. Thank you, Dave. Says, look, a month. Haha, what up, guys? Sign Ayuk. And then Keenan says, buttered biscuits. Good morning, fam. Good morning, Keenan. Butter biscuits. I said that once on Grant. I said I was talking about the Niners. I think I said they baked the biscuits, but now they got to butter them, I believe. And ever since then, Keenan's been rolling with it, man. So let's do this, man. I got 17 seconds for the greatest sponsor of all time, and then we'll be right back to talk more 49ers, and then Kyle's trying to steal my style. Give us 17 seconds. Hensley Real Estate and Mortgage has been serving all of California since 2009. I would love to help you and your family. Whether you're buying, selling, financing, or refinancing, please reach out. I'd love to help. Visit RyanGHensley.com for more information. All right, everybody, do me a favor. Like Red Jet says here, on this one, excuse me, like and subscribe. If you haven't yet, hit the like button for me. Subscribe to the channel. I'm almost at 10,000 subscribers. I want to get there before the season starts, and I think we are going to do it. And then make sure you guys go subscribe to Weston's channel, Island 49er, on YouTube as well. So, my man, I just thought this was hilarious. Not hilarious. It's just interesting to see these guys dressed this way. So I asked Twitter, what do these guys do for a living? Got some good responses here. Where did it go? There it is. This one was the best one to me. This is the winner. It says they run a hipster IPA only bar, is what they look like. What's up with Kyle and his stash, man? He's trying to steal my style a little bit.
Dude, when I saw this picture, I wanted to tweet this out, but I was like, nah, I'm coming on a show the next day. Like that'll feel like awkward and weird. So that's why I joked with you about it, like behind the scenes. But like, I know you rep the bald community, and I'm not far behind you, bro. That's why I'm always in hats. But I said if Ryan had slick back hair with a little bit of the gray right up in front, that mustache just gave me you vibes from all around. And thick, plush, well taken care of, right here, right in the heart of the mouth,
For the record, I think I need to clarify this. I think it's important. I actually can grow hair, believe it or not. I just shave it. I just have the worst hairline of all time. I've been shaving my hair since 8th grade. My basketball team, we all shaved our heads, and a girl at school was like, "You look good with a shaved head." And it was over. Since then, it's cheaper and it's cooler. And a girl in 8th grade, when I was in 8th grade, told me it looked good. So that's why I can actually grow my hair. It's just I got that. Who's got a crazy hairline that we know?
Me. That's why I wear a hat all the
Yeah,
time.
I got that Nick Cage hairline. So it's pretty rough out here. But I do have a nice round head, so I shave it. But I can grow it. But the mustache is definitely he's swagger jacket. Do you think we get Kyle Shanahan with a mustache during the season, or is this just for Christian McCaffrey's wedding?
Oh my God.
You
So
want
I don't
it.
think we get it, but I want it. I want it
You
in
want
the
it.
worst way. Just
Right.
I saw something on Twitter. I don't know who. We probably both follow the same person. I can't even remember who said it, but something like somebody came out and said, "And you said my coach can't change."
Oh,
And
right.
how he went to that, and I
Yeah, I
thought
forget
that
who
was
said that.
hysterical. I would love to see it. I think as
It's
again, take this
important.
back to the personal level. Like we see the same thing every day in the mirror. When we look in the mirror, sometimes you just like need to change it up,
Need to
And
change. Maybe it'd be a good luck mustache, and he'll win the Super Bowl this time if he
you know
gets
what I
there.
mean? Keep it for
Yeah.
camp, and let's see how camp goes. If we get out of camp
Right.
clean, then we keep it for the season.
Yes, and this is the important 49ers news everyone wants to talk about. That's why we brought it to you. But seriously, here's the question that it is July. It's July 1st. Happy July, everybody. My birth month. Some cool people born in July. Like myself, Jennifer Lopez, I think Holly Berry, I think. So hey, that counts. I don't know who else. Some other people probably. But
sure.
let's talk. Let's talk camp. The rookies show up on the 23rd, I believe, and the full camp starts about a week later. So it is football is upon us, and I've really been thinking about a lot of these camp battles. There's going to be some guys that are battling for a position on this team, at least to make the active roster. Right now, they got 90 guys on the team. They're going to be cut down to 53. The ones that I have marked in green, I have as locks. There's probably a few more I could have put as locks, but I didn't want to go that route yet. Let's talk about some camps. First one, I think Brock Purdy. Obviously, I think Brock Purdy is going to be the starting quarterback, I would guess.
Sure hope so.
Yeah, so we know Brock's going to be there. Josh Dobbs, I think obviously is going to be there because of the contract they guaranteed him. However, they did waive what's his name? Nate. Whatever his name was after paying him a similar contract. So it's possible.
Sudfeld? Was it Nate
Yeah,
Sudfeld? Is that
Sudfeld.
what it is?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's possible that Josh Dobbs isn't he gets beat out by Brandon Allen, Tanner Mordecai, but I think Josh Dobbs is just head and shoulders better than those guys. But who's QB3? Do you think the 49ers keep 3 quarterbacks this year, or do you think they roll with 2?
Gosh, I mean, after what we saw in the NFC Championship game in the year previous, I think they're a little like scarred and feel the need to. I think they keep 3. Excuse me, I don't know. What am I? 18? I think my voice is
You
cracked.
just hit puberty, bro.
Jesus.
Yeah. They kept 3 the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think they keep.
Yeah, you think they do again?
Yeah, and I
Who
think
do you think it is?
I think it's Brock, Dobbs, and Brandon Allen. I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything to go any deeper in Tanner Mordecai.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's most likely outcome. This one with the halfback one is I probably should have put Elijah Mitchell on here. Originally, I thought Mitchell might be a trade candidate in the offseason, and we'll see. Maybe it's possible. We'll see what happens with Isaac Grindo and Cody Schrader. But like originally, I was thinking, maybe these guys come out and ball out, and they move off of Elijah Mitchell while they still can. It's his last year in his contract. He's always injured. Jordan Mason seems to be on the incline. I did hear Jordan Mason did get some, team 1 snaps at the brief camps they have had. So that's a good sign for Jordan Mason. But I think they probably now, based on what I've heard about Isaac Grindo and Cody Schrader, that haven't been extremely impressive in practice. And if that continues to be the trend, I think Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason are locks. And they'll probably go with Isaac Grindo, I would guess, as a 4th if they keep a 4th. Do you agree, or how do you see this?
I think like you, I always thought that Mitchell felt like potentially the odd man out because we know what Kyle has, or the 49ers have had success with these undrafted running backs, right? Yes, it's Kyle and in the run game, etc. But I too hearing the same things that like so far Guerrero and Cody haven't really been super impressive, but they're rookies. I'm not reading into that. I think they're going to get every opportunity in camp to impress, and it's only going to take one of them. And I think that would put Mitchell on the out. I don't see JP Mason going anywhere just because he's that bruiser. He's closing, and obviously Mr. McCaffrey is not going anywhere. But I think Mitchell's always hurt. That's a roster spot if he's on your 53 with limited changes that you're able to make, and maybe some of these rookies, they get an opportunity because they're fresh legs. And we've seen Kyle churn and burn these guys more often than not.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, now I think I kind of leaning Elijah Mitchell makes this squad and plays out his last season with the 49ers. I doubt he signs another contract. They really don't have room for 2 contract guys in the running back room, especially after upping Christian McCaffrey's pay scale. So probably a last season for Elijah Mitchell. Hopefully Jordan Mason gets a little bit more love than he did in previous seasons. I'm a big Jordan Mason guy. When we move to fullback, Kyle Juszczyk is competing with no one. He'll be back, obviously. Yeah. One of the more interesting camp battles this season to me is going to be George Kittle. Obviously, he's making the team, but it's who is tight end 2, tight end 3, and maybe tight end 4 for the 49ers. Can Cam Latu bounce back? When I saw him last year in training camp, looked really good, just couldn't catch the ball. Braden Willis, we saw a little bit of, big holding penalty in the Super Bowl. Wasn't the greatest, but he got a little bit more. He got some play on special teams as well as in the game, whereas Cam did not. Mason Pline, young undrafted guy. Eric Sober, veteran. Jake Tongs, veteran. Logan Thomas is probably a guy that I would imagine makes this team. So George Kittle, probably Logan, probably Braden Willis, I would guess. But how do you see the tight end room playing out? And how many do you think they keep?
I think they keep 3. This is obviously a position of great value to the 49ers and what they do. They keep a lot of things, close to the line of scrimmage. These are every quarterback needs a tight end as your safety net, and you have that number 85. I think this is probably Willis and Thomas at the end, but I think, I don't know. I think the story's already been written for Latu, and I'm sorry to hear that, but sometimes you just got to cut bait. You made a decision, and I don't know if he's getting out there, but somebody's going to need to block, right? That's the most important thing that this number 2 tight end is going to do for the 49ers. So whoever's willing to throw it in there, get in the mix, and sustain blocks like throughout camp and be aggressive, that's who's going to win tight end 2, tight end 3 job. That's the most important thing that they can do, because I still think the 49ers desperately want to take George Kittle out of the blocking game and separate him from the line of scrimmage just a little bit. That's how you preserve that man. I know he does it very, very well, and we're very fortunate for that, but I don't think that's the recipe for success, is keeping him in passing downs, right? Blocking. Like obviously in the run game, it's a huge benefit. He's a 6th offensive lineman. So that when they go 2 tight end personnel, number 2 better be able to block, because that's what they're going to be doing, and Kittle will be going out on routes.
Yeah, we'll see, man. I definitely think Kittle and Thomas, we've been all wanting Kittle to be more involved in the passing game. I don't know, man. I'm hopeful. We'll see. Wide receiver, man, this is an interesting one. I really feel like everyone's battling for one spot here, because if Brandon Ayuk signs an extension, or even if he doesn't, if he's on the 5th-year option, and even if he misses the beginning, he'll come back and he'll be on this team. So you got B.A., Debo, Ricky Pearsall, Cowing, and Jawan Jennings. All those guys are locks to make this team. Now it's really Danny Gray, Ronnie Bell, Tariq Owens, Tay Martin, Chris Conley, and Trent Taylor to make the 6th spot for the 49ers if they keep 6, which they usually do. Who do you think wins that battle? How do you see that playing out?
I don't know. I mean, my gut kind of, I want to lean towards Chris Conley, just because he's a savvy vet. We've seen him in the offense. I know he's not the sexiest and flashiest name here. We all wanted so much more from Danny Gray, and especially the start that Ronnie Bell had in camp last year going into the season. Everyone was like, oh, this guy, we slept on him, and he was a big time player in college. He just made big catches. He played physical for not such a big guy. I think the 49ers want Ronnie Bell to work out. But I think I agree with you. I think these top 5, it's a no-brainer that 6th slot. I'd give it to Chris Conley. That's who I'd keep around.
It's funny you say that, man. I've said it a couple times. I think Chris Conley is the most deserving out of all of these wide receivers. He's the best one, I think. But because of roster politics, I think he probably doesn't. I think they probably are going to give it to Ronnie Bell. However, I have heard, and I know a lot of people have written him off already, but I've heard Danny Gray looked really good so far. And if Danny Gray matures with that speed, I could see them going with him. I think the one that favors the most from a political standpoint is Ronnie Bell because they just drafted the guy last season. So I think Ronnie Bell is probably going to be that 6th guy. If I had to bet money, it's a chance Danny Gray could beat him out. I don't know. With a guy like Chris Conley, a veteran, he's used to being thrown to the practice squad. He's probably not going to get signed off or signed off the squad from anyone else. So, or they might just keep him on standby. I feel like that's probably what they'll do with Chris Conley, even though he probably is better than all of these guys. I would imagine it's probably going to be Ronnie Bell because of roster politics, I would guess.
Yeah, and to your point, like Chris Conley is a guy that is you can turn to. Like he's not going to be on somebody else, and that's not because he can't play. It's just you're talking about 6th and 7th wide receiver slots on teams. You bring that guy back. It's like, why did you always bring back Dante Johnson to play corner for the 49ers? Because he's just familiar. You know what I mean? And like he knows what's going on. And Chris is a guy that I think you can always bring back. And somebody like Danny or Ronnie, maybe you want to give a little bit more time to because they're still so early in their career. You never know what they could blossom into.
Right, especially with the new kick and punt return rules. I'm wondering if any of these guys can be a factor in that regard. I don't know how good Danny Gray would be at it, being such a skinny guy, but he got the speed. I'm really excited about the new kickoff return rules. I think it's going to add a little bit more spice to these games because kickoff basically to me was time to get up, go to the kitchen, and because nothing ever happens. Like they never return. I think it's 25% of the time they actually return the kick, and now it's supposed to switch. It's about to be 75% of the time they're actually going to be returning kicks, which is definitely going to make the game more interesting. So we'll see, man. If I had to bet, I go Ronnie Bell. Although I do have I'm slightly rooting for Tariq Owens to be that guy. I don't think it happens, but that would be awesome, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Just son of a 49er legend, right? Let's get him out there.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, O-line, I tweeted out this morning the guys I think are locks are Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, John Feliciano, Colton McKivitz, Dominic Pooney. Those are the guys I think are locks. A lot of people were mad. Like Spencer Burford shouldn't be a lock. Well, draft politics plays a part. Again, he was drafted just, his 3rd season. I don't think they cut ties with their 3rd round draft pick from 3 seasons ago. I believe that's accurate what I'm saying there. I think the only other possible lock that's on this team would be Jalen Moore, possibly. My guy JC tweeted at me to let me know that's probably an option because he's really one of their only tackles left. They did just sign. Who did they sign? Hubbard, Chris Hubbard. Is that who they signed? Yeah, so he can actually play tackle as well. He might be a threat to Jalen, but these are the guys I think are locks. Do you think anyone else is a lock, or who do you think emerges out of this group right here?
No, I mean, I think Nugent's got a chance. I think Jalen Moore, just because of the positional value of having a quote unquote like swing tackle on the roster. My fan favorite is Nick Zakelj because he went to Fordham University in the Bronx, New York, as did your boy. Mm-hmm. So we always root for our formerly, what is it, FCS now? I remember being 1AA, right? That's what we used to call it. But go Rams, go Nick. But that never panned out. Knew it never would. Totally different beast. But I think Nugent's got a shot. I think Jalen Moore's got a shot. But I agree. Those 7 that you have up there, those are guarantees. Those are definitively on the roster.
Yeah, do you think and then we're talking only roster battles about just making the roster, but there's also a real positional battle within those locks with Dominic Pooney. Like, who knows what's going to happen? Like Jake Brendel, John Feliciano, Spencer Burford, and Dominic Pooney are all kind of battling for 2 spots.
Yep.
Yeah, and Jake's health is not the best right now. It sounds like he might be able to get back over it, but the guard and the right guard center position are kind of up for grabs. Right now, I would imagine Colton McKivitz is locked at right tackle. Unfortunately, they gave him an extension. So it's really that center right guard is the only spot that's up for contention right now. I'm also surprised Aaron Banks hasn't been extended. That's another guy. There are a lot of players that could be extended, not just Brandon Ayuk right now, that aren't being extended, which is surprising to me. I thought Aaron Banks is another guy you want to get out in front of. If they lose Aaron Banks and then they're back to like Burford and Pooney, they didn't really do anything in this draft to improve. They just replaced Banks. So, anyways, man, who do you think wins that right guard center spot? What do you think that looks like?
Honestly, I think what they trotted out at the end of the season is what they trot out to start the season. I just think continuity goes further than the unknown, right? The devil you know is always better than the devil you don't, is the popular saying. But I definitively believe Pooney will be pushing for time early, and I think whoever is slated in that right guard slot, right, whether it's Burford or Feliciano, their leash will be very, very short. If Poon even looks half the part in camp, I think he'll get an opportunity early. But it just makes too much sense to go with literally the offensive line that played in the Super Bowl, right? Like, I know it's not the best, but you can't be the best at every position in the NFL. It just doesn't work that way, right? Like, it's not how it goes.
Yeah, PFF just ranked them 17th overall as far as an O-line is concerned. I'm going to tackle defense on my next show with whoever that is. I don't even know who's coming on or when it's going to be. I know we got the 4th coming up. But I did want to ask you, I think I deleted it. That was great, Ryan. Oh, here we are. I want to ask you about this ranking. Yeah, I did this position ranking thing, man. And this was really a challenge to do. Like, I was like struggling. I didn't take too much time, but like trying to make a quick decision on this. So basically what this is the strongest position groups on the 49ers, how I would rank them by position group. So I'm going to explain mine, and then I want to hear your feedback after I'm done and see what you would change. But the first one I have is running back, because I think they got the best running back in the NFL and Christian McCaffrey. Elijah Mitchell, when healthy, is really good. Jordan Mason is really good. But when you have the offensive player of the year as your running back in a run-first team, to me, I think the best unit on this team, I went with running back with Christian McCaffrey. The second one I went with, and this is a future Hall of Famer, highly likely Christian McCaffrey becomes a Hall of Famer, especially if they actually win a Super Bowl. The second unit to me is linebackers, which has been the case for the 49ers for over a decade now. You go from Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman, now you have Fred Warner, and I'm assuming Dre Greenlaw's healthy when I make this order. That's assuming Dre Greenlaw is healthy. Fred Warner to me is probably the best linebacker in the NFL. And then Dre Greenlaw, when he's healthy and doing his thing, he's right up there as well. So I have running back first, linebacker second, and tight end. I got a lot of pushback on tight end. The reason why they say, Ryan, all they have is George Kittle, but most of the time you're in a one tight end set with the 49ers. So most of the time you have either the first or the second best tight end in the NFL on the field, depending on how you look at it. So to me, and this is another guy that could possibly make the Hall of Fame, especially if he wins a Super Bowl. So to me, running back, linebacker, tight end, that's 1, 2, 3. Then I went with defensive end. This one was tough as well. This whole thing was tough for me to do. But I went with defensive end because you have Nick Bosa, who was the defensive player of the year just a couple years ago. So you have the offensive player of the year in Christian McCaffrey at running back, one of the best linebackers, one of the top two linebackers, top one linebacker, top two tight ends, right? So the top at all of their position. That's why I have them 1, 2, 3. And then defensive end, Nick Bosa was that guy. He wasn't last year, but I do think he has the potential to come back. And with the addition of Leonard Floyd, I think they could actually be a lot better than they were last year with Chase Young. So that's why I have him there. Receiver could have been above this, but there's been no. Nick Bosa was the best in the NFL at his position. Debo as maybe was the best at what he does, but not the best as a receiver. And that's also one of the reasons why I have running back so high, because a lot of times Debo Samuel is a running back, and that helps with that as well. Also, but wide receiver, I just have him there. I mean, and here's the thing: when I'm going through this exercise, and I'll finish here in just a second, but when you're going through this exercise, what you realize is how freaking good this team is.
Ridiculous.
Because it's like, how do you rank these guys, right? Some really good players, but a wide receiver room with Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and Ricky Pearsall, possibly. Hopefully that guy's good. Jawan Jennings is a great at what he does. I have them 5. And it was tough for me with corner because I really think the corners could have been above wide receivers. Honestly, I like Charvarius Ward is one of the best in the NFL. He might be better than either Brandon Ayuk or Deebo was at their position. That's a real possibility. Deommodore Lenoir is highly underrated. And then they just signed Renardo Green, who I'm really excited about. So that's why I have the cornerback room where it is. And then you get down to 7, and that's quarterback. Even though Brock Purdy was a finalist for MVP, I just think those guys are better at their position than Brock is at his. Not that he's bad. Brock is really good, but that's what I mean. This exercise, you're like, how do you do this? So that's why I have Brock at 7, followed by safeties. Hopefully Talanoa Hufanga is healthy. I really believe him. Malik Mustafa, Jair Brown was somewhat promising last year, so I have safeties at 8. And then defensive tackles, I'm not very impressed with the defensive tackles that we have on the team. Javon Hargrave was a disappointment to me last season, and I'm not so sure about the additions that we added. So I think that's the second worst position on the team, followed by offensive line outside of Trent Williams and maybe Aaron Banks. Not much to work with there. I think the offensive line is the worst position on this team. So tell me what you think about my rankings.
I think that you took on a very daunting task. I think you make the obvious statement of the day as you go through this, and you're like, gosh darn, these 49ers are actually really stacked and pretty darn good, right? And like, you want to keep this core nucleus together. 100% agree about running back and linebacker in that order. For all the obvious reasons. You have the best player at that position and arguably the best scheme, right? Like in the National Football League to cater to that position. It's the most important thing that you do on offense to move the ball the way it's designed. And oh, by the way, you throw in this wrinkle of Deebo Samuel, also part of your running game, could be classified as a running back, like hands down. I think linebacker, Fred Warner is definitely a future Hall of Famer. Dre Greenlaw is definitely top 5 in the NFL, in my opinion. So this is a caveat with healthy, but obviously if healthy, like by far and away for these two. I agree with you on the Kittle perspective. What I love and why I think he is the best tight end in the game is because he's proven he can do it when he splits out statistically, but he's also your second best offensive lineman on the team while playing the position. When you think of we never talk about Travis Kelce's blocking, right? Like we never talk about these, do we talk about Kyle Pitts and like other tight ends that, Mark Andrews maybe a little bit in there, but more often than not, when we're talking about prolific tight ends, we're not talking about what they do in the trenches and how they contribute to the run game. So yeah, Kittle's that guy. I agree on the edge. I'd probably flip wide receiver D end here. Just about like, hey, a lot of unknown outside of what Bosa is, especially coming off I'm using quotations here, like a down year for like production wise. Wide receivers, I think if you keep it intact, hard to find a more formidable pair than Deebo and Ayuk and how they complement each other. I'd flip. I'd leave cornerback 6 and 7. I'll make a better argument for you as you're going through this. Is I actually think Deommodore Lenoir is the best cornerback on the San Francisco 49ers. I don't even think it is Charvarius Ward. I think Demo is that guy. I agree based on that statement that he is slept on continuously. I think he's the best they have to offer at the position. Brock, that's what we're talking about here at quarterback. Listen, he fits what we're trying to do, right? Like that's what it boils down to. I think we'll get more from him this year. We'll see more of his game evolve. We'll see him process even faster. We'll see them try to stretch the field. We'll see if they can get to more of a 50-50 parity pass versus run, because that's going to keep people guessing. My biggest, what I would absolutely flip here is I put D tackles at 8. They're unknown out, which this is crazy, right? Like you have them listed 9 on your list. I have them 8 on my list with Javon Hargrave in that like that's how deep this team is. But there's a lot of unknown with the D tackles, right? We got new faces, new bodies coming over. So I put the D tackles at 8. I'd actually slide the O line up to 9. Hard for me to have them as the worst position when we have the best player in the league. And I'm saying that the best player in the league who plays one of these positions in Trent Williams. I'd put safety dead last for me. Too much unknown. What do we have in Jair Brown? for all intents and purposes, it's looked good so far, but it's a really limited sample size. We know nothing about Malik Mustafa other than we are all very high on him. We've seen collegiate tape, but how is that going to translate into the NFL and how they're going to fit him? And I love Huff. He's as explosive and exciting as anybody else, but I do think his all-pro nod he didn't necessarily, in my eyes, have an all-pro year. It was a lot about splash plays that happened really early in the season, like pick sixes and things of that nature. But for every big play he makes, he gives up as well. So there's liability in that game. And how's he going to recover from an Achilles? So, this isn't the Jimmy Ward, Jaquiski Tart, or having Ty Gibson back there where you just like, he was a rock. He was Mr. Consistency for us over the last 2 years. I just think I'd have safeties last because there's just too much unknown for me at the position.
I mean, you make a good argument. I think I like safeties because Huff, to me, I love Huff, man. I do see what you're saying in regards to that. I'm very high on Malik. It's just really, for me, the O-line has been I'm a big O-line guy, and I get frustrated because, to me, after Trent Williams, you got Aaron Banks, who's he's a B. He's a B player.
Yep.
To me. He's not an A player. I would probably put him at a B. And then to me, Brendel, Burford, McKivitz are C's at best. Yeah. So when Trent goes out, I mean, this team is very bad at the O-line. They're ranked 17th. I mean, PFF, you take that with a grain of salt, but they're ranked 17th with Trent Williams. So what would they be without him? But I do believe in Malik, and I'm a big fan of Huff. Jair had some glimpses. So I'm a little more high on them. And then defensive tackle, the reason why I got him at 9, right below O-line, is just I wasn't impressed with Hargrave, man. He was great on the Eagles. He didn't really do anything to impress me last year with the Niners. He himself admitted he was out of shape, so maybe that's what it was, and he'll come back in shape this year and be the old Javon Hargrave, and it's just too TBD. But I think no matter how you look at this, it's hard to be like wrong about this, right? Like, we could have a difference of a slot or two. The only way you'd be wrong is if you had the O-line at 1 or something like that. I mean, very deep team, and this is why it's been so frustrating as a fan. As good as this team is, punch it in, man. Go all the way through, make this thing happen. Hopefully they get it done this coming season. Remind everybody the name of your channel, brother.
Island 49.
Island 49.
Yep, Island 49.
I would like to be on an island right now because this is the weather outlook for me right now, brother. What's the temperature right now in New Jersey this next coming
We
days?
just got out of a heat wave. All last week it was mid to upper 90s. Today it's like 81, 82 degrees. Feels real nice, actually. Feels real nice.
I'm jealous, man. Luckily, I got a pool about 10 feet outside my office right here. I'm going to be in that thing all day long. It's going to be hot as hell. I miss the coast, man. I grew up in the Bay. I'm not used to this kind of weather. I've been here for 12 years, so I'm kind of getting used to it. But stay cool out there, everybody. I'm going to be back. I got to figure out what I'm doing. I am hosting another debate. I think it's Brother Bob and Rich Madrid. I'm not sure when that one is going to go down. But tune in. You guys will know when I go live. Obviously, I'll let you know. That's the show for today. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Weston's channel, Island 49er. Weston, man, great job today. I appreciate you being here, brother.
No, I appreciate you having me, Ryan. It was great, and great interaction from all your listeners. I hope we can do it again, man.
Oh, we for sure will, brother. Thank you, man. Thank you for being here. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe if you would be so kind. Let me know in the comments what you think of my rankings. Probably don't agree. It's hard to agree on 10 different positions, but the Niners are deep, man. So hopefully this year I'll be back Wednesday with somebody. So stay tuned. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching the Ryan G. Hensley Show. Your support is greatly appreciated. Please visit RyanGHensley.com to learn more about me and all of my businesses. Whether it's real estate, credit repair, solar, whatever it is, you can find out more about me on that website. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you know when we go live.